Namo Siddhanam. Jai Jinendra, everyone. Welcome to JainHeritageCenters.com's 20th anniversary celebration and Jain Heritage Festival 2022. And this is the fourth session of a series of webinars that we are conducting as part of Jain Heritage Festival 2022 and also as part of the anniversary celebrations. Before we start, I just wanted to give you all a quick overview about our website, jainheritageCenters.com. The website was launched in 2002. It was launched on 26 May 2002. Later on, it was inaugurated by one of the renowned Jaina and practice scholars, Dr. M.D. Vasantaraj sir. And it was founded by my father, support, Dr. H.A. Parshwanath and myself. And without him, we wouldn't have been here what we are today. I think thanks to him for everything. Then when it comes to the content, we have about 3,000 or that keeps on going. This is just a number. I mean, it goes on to 3,500 pages of research information on Jainism and Jain heritage. And it has publications related to multiple aspects: history, heritage, temples, archaeology, epigraphy, rituals, Jain way of life, events, puja mahotsavs, pratishtha mahotsavs, and others. And we are ranked for over 3,500 keywords globally on different search engines. This is across the world on different countries. And then when it comes to the content, it's similar to the kind of publications that we have, which I just explained just now. Then when it comes to our projects and initiatives, we have been involved in a lot of restoration of Jain mandirs, idols, basadis, or artifacts. And we have brought about the awareness across the community when there was an attack on the Digambar Jaina monks who were on their vihara in 2004 in Tamil Nadu. And then we have been involved in a couple of Mahamastakabhisheka Mahotsavas, the one at Venur in 2012. And it's one of the other important projects that we have worked was the first documentary on Jainism in Korean language. This is a documentary that was sponsored by MBC on food habits of the world, wherein Jainism was one of the religions which was focused. We were part of that team. And we also contributed with few images about Jain way of life with the first book on Jainism in Slovakian language. Thanks to Kampala sir for that opportunity. And we had brought about awareness during the attack on the Jain Muni at Girnar Hill in 2013. And then moving on, when Jaina monks and Jaina way of life is being portrayed on different channels, there was an instance wherein the Lord Bahubali was portrayed very indifferently in a Kannada drama called Chakraratna. We were the ones who protested, and we were able to successfully stop the wrong portrayal of Lord Bahubali there. And we have been supporting a lot of researchers with research information, articles, and images for their master's and doctoral research in different national and international universities. And we have also been learning from them. It's always a mutual win-win situation that happens everywhere. And when it comes to the Shravanabela Bahubali Mahamastakabhisheka Mahotsav, we were part of the organizing committees in 2006 and 2018. And we were also involved during the Karkala Bahubali Mahamastakabhishek in 2015. And moving on again, we were part of the 2018 Mahamastakabhisheka exhibition. I worked there as a secretary, and also we had organized a huge pavilion in collaboration with Digambar Jain Mahasabha. And we had come up with a pavilion on Jain heritage and archaeology, wherein we had a footfall of 250,000 people in a record 15 days time. And then we were part of the Salekana activities. When the Salekana movement took place, we were part of the team that worked on the petition filed at the Supreme Court of India. We were able to provide research material about the practice of Salekana, and which was instrumental, probably maybe one of the factors which helped us get the stay order. Then we have been involved always in different Panch Kalyanaks and Pratishtha Mahotsavs of various Jain temples in India. And we had organized a series of webinars in 2020 along with the University of Madras. Then last year, again, another series of 8 webinars. And I have authored a book called Jinayatra, which was published in 2018. It was a collection of research articles on Karnataka's Jain heritage, and I'm humbled to say that a book was awarded with the coveted M.A. Jayachandra Award in 2020. And now, again, like as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we are here as part of JainHeritageCenters.com's 20th anniversary celebrations and Jain Heritage Festival 2022. I think the journey has just begun with a sound foundation, and now we need to build a superstructure in terms of conservation and propagation of Jain heritage, along with some sort of academic studies, is what I feel. And now we have Dr. Manish Mehta, sir, a very dynamic person who's been part of the Diaspora committee, who is a vice chairman of the Academic Liaison Committee, Jaina, USA. He'll be speaking on the topic Jain Diaspora. And I'll hand over the stage to my friend Antriksh to take over. Antriksh, over to you.
Thank you, and Jai Jinendra, everyone. It is indeed a very humble privilege to me from Jain Heritage Center, being a fan and a well-wisher for Jain Heritage Center. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Jai Jinendra, one and all. Jai Jinendra Manish, sir. We are very glad to have you. Manish, sir, is one of the person who is having a very, very well-balanced, probably I can say amalgamation of all. So let me just go to his initial humble beginning. So he is, his origins are from Jaipur, and he was born in a Mewari Gujarati Stanakwasi family. And then he was schooled in East Africa, India, Singapore, and US. And he started his college in Bangalore, in RV School of Engineering. And with his specialization and expertise coming out, he received a scholarship and moved to USA for graduate studies. And later, he got a PhD degree in industrial engineering from University of Cincinnati, and also completed the executive program at University of Michigan's Ross Business School. And that was specialized in technology strategy. Okay, both of them are paradoxes, technology and strategy. One comes from a strategical point of view. So I think Manish sir will throw more light on what is technology and strategy together. Yeah. So then apart from that, in his professional career, he's held a lot of senior positions in 3 non-profit research organizations. And in 2015, he founded MTech International LLC, a consulting company promoting triple bottom line sustainability in the manufacturing of aerospace, automotive, and defense vehicle systems. He was also elected as a fellow of 3 professional engineering societies. So this is his professional and more of a career venture. As he was pursuing PhD studies, he started volunteering as a Pathshala teacher for Jain youth. And that's where his volunteerism as a teacher with Jain Society of Greater Detroit, JSGD, started. At present, he is the director, the Jaina director for JSGD. He's also involved in various Jaina communities, including Jaina Convention programming, including Jaina Convention programming since 2009. He's also a member of Rotary Club of Ann Arbor North. Hi, sir. I'm a Rotractor from Chennai, and since 1995. That's long, almost 27 years, and led a 6-person group study exchange team of US and Canadian members to help eradicate polio in the villages around Bangalore in 1997. So I think if world and India is polio free is only because of Rotary. And sir has played very fundamental roles, probably to his homeland, more of like, where he was studying. He has led 18 humanitarian service projects, co-sponsored by Rotary Foundation in India, Bangladesh, Brazil, Nepal, Nigeria, Singapore, and Uruguay. So I think he's touched all the places which has added some value to him. And like, he studied in Singapore, he studied in Africa, and you can see wide lot of countries where he's worked. He's also been Jaina's representative to Hindu American Foundation and American Jewish Committees Global Forum since 2015. So, sir, we are very proud you're born out of our land. You are a living example of Jain community in Diaspora, and we are more than eager to listen to you. You've represented the Jain community, Jain youth, by getting a PhD and working in very professionally in different capacities. Apart from that, coming from the Jaina roots, you started volunteering, and now we have Manish ji Mehta. So request all of you to put your hands together on this virtual forum in welcoming Manish ji Mehta, who is representing Jain community, not just in Jaina. He's also representing a community in the international forum and with other like Jewish and Hindu societies in US. Thank you, Manish ji. Looking forward to hear from you.
Yeah, Jai Jinendra, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for that warm introduction, Antriksh Bhai. And special thanks to Nitin Bhai HP for this invitation, his persistence in reaching out and asking me to give this talk is the reason I'm here today. And what better honor than to be the so-called opening act before the main show, which is Dr. Sulekh Jain, my dear, wonderful father in America and mentor, who I've known literally maybe 2 or 3 months after I stepped off the plane in 1985 as a graduate student in Cincinnati. I think I came in January, and in March I got to meet Dr. Sulekh Jain, who got me engaged in the Jain Society of Cincinnati, Dayton. And he asked me to volunteer as a Pathshala teacher for 35 kids at that time. So that's what my journey of Jainism deeper into Jainism really begins. As much as I knew Navkar Mantra and all the typical prayers when you are born in a Jain family in India. But so I just want to pay humble homage to Dr. Sulekh Jain and several other friends here. I see Dr. R.P. Bhai Jain also is here. He was present at our wedding, believe it or not, in 1989. So it's just wonderful to be here. And I, of course, interact with several of you folks on this in this Zoom meeting on other WhatsApp groups as well. So it's a delight to see you join as well. My presentation is going to be quite different from what you might be used to, because as you can see, and as Antriksh Bhai mentioned, that we are professionals in a totally different field, and we have to take time off and follow our passion to really nurture our knowledge and try and then persevere to increase that knowledge, right, in say Jainism or in humanitarian service or whatever it is that pulls our attention into. So that takes one special effort and therefore needs time off from family, right, to do those things. And I'm really grateful to my family, especially my wife Varsha Mehta. She's also here on the call today. I asked her to be in the audience. Usually she's my best critic as well, and tells me where I go wrong and corrects my path all the time. So anyway, so this is what it is. I'm going to quickly share screen. And I do have about 40 plus slides that I want to go through. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're good. All right. I think I should be able to manage with this. So is it a full screen now?
Yes, sir. It is.
Okay, very good. So I've been invited to give this talk on Jain diaspora because of, just to kind of keep an eye on and raise awareness of our fellow Indian Jain brothers and sisters on what's going on in Jainism outside of India. And what I'm taking is just a tip of the iceberg. I cannot by any chance, even in a one-day talk, paint the full picture because there's so much going on that really enthuses me a lot. But I can certainly give you my experiences of it and what it means to me, and how I feel that young professionals, aspiring students, both Jainism, but also those who are here in America who are Jains, who are studying on US campuses, etc., could be following a path to get more integrated in the community of Jains around the world. So with that, I'm just going to keep advancing a few slides, and I appreciate you taking the time to explain, but do the introduction initially. So just a quick outline of what I want to talk about. I'll talk about my personal journey. I have a lot of Bangalore connections, as you mentioned in the initial introduction. And that's what brings me to Bangalore literally every year, except during this pandemic. For 2 years, I'm kind of stuck in America and I have not traveled abroad at all. And then, of course, I'll talk about Jaina, because that was one of the topics that Nitin Bhai asked me to give a larger background on, and what the Jain Diaspora initiative is about, because this is something that Sulek Uncle and a couple of other past Jaina presidents approached me and said, you have the right background to take this initiative, so you get started. So this is back from 2009, what we did. A few examples of recent diaspora activities, what I think are our challenges and priorities as Jains living outside of India, but also Jains living in India, and we are trying to bridge those connections and make them more solid than ever. I have a few concluding remarks, and then hopefully there'll be some time for questions. As much as Nitin Bhai said, I have 1 hour. I don't think that you all have the patience to sit glued on chairs for 1 hour of my lecture, and then for Sulek Uncle's very engaging lecture coming up. I'm going to try and finish this in about 30 to 40 minutes maximum. So let's just get started really quick. So I just want to acknowledge my family, my wife Varsha, 2 sons, Anshul and Vishal. The older one is standing next to me, and we have a wonderful daughter-in-law who we gained during the pandemic in July 2020. And of course, the current product we have is a very, very sweet pet child called Belle. So this is with the Chicago skyline where our sons live, taken last summer. So my journey, as you can see from these pictures, I'll use my mouse to just show you. I was born in Bangalore. As I said, my father was the Mewari insurance executive, and he was married to a Gujarati Jain woman who was born and raised in Tanzania, but sent to Mumbai to go to college in the late 1950s. And he was match made to my mother in Mumbai by a dear family friends. So I was then born in Jaipur along with my sister. And in 1965, my father was transferred on his insurance company job. You all know about United India Insurance Company, which is actually now a Chennai-based company. So he was a branch manager, then a divisional manager, then a senior regional manager. So that's how this all started. So we've lived in Tanzania since then, where I did my elementary schooling and started that. Then we went to Kampala, Uganda, where we lived till 1971, when Idi Amin made life very difficult for everybody, and especially Asians. So we left just before the main exodus. And from there, my father was transferred to the Bangalore branch, which is why you see this arrow and the wonderful Vidhan Sauda there, where I schooled at Frank Anthony Public School for 3 years. And then from there in 1975, he was transferred all the way to Singapore to head the regional Southeast Asia office of United India Insurance Company. And then, of course, I did my high school in Singapore, came back to Bangalore because my father thought he was going to be transferred back to India, and joined RV College of Engineering and did a degree in mechanical engineering from there in 1985. At which point I had already interned with various companies in Bangalore and had some very good friends because I was active in the Institution of Engineers India student chapter, which is near Indian Express building, if you know, near Basant Nagar. And from there, I got a scholarship to come to the United States. So that's why you see Lady Liberty on this side of your screen. And that's how I got here. So you can see the diverse journey, what it took to grow up. And, it really broadens your mind when you are exposed to multiple cultures, multiple types of people, For example, back in Africa, so I started at a convent school. So Jaipur, it was St. Angela Convent School, and briefly I was even in a boarding school at St. Xavier's in Jaipur. All right, so you see the Christian education. Then in Tanzania, it was another convent school. In Uganda, it was a Muslim school, actually, Aga Khan School in Kampala. And from there, I came to Singapore, well, then to Bangalore again for Frank Anthony Public School, also mostly a Christian school, but wonderful, diverse education, followed by high school in Singapore, which was in a government non-sectarian school. So when you're exposed, and these are all very multiracial, multicultural societies, especially Singapore and these countries in East Africa as well, at least in the urban areas where we live. So we are exposed to so many different religious systems. And that is one of the reasons, that drives me a lot. I'm passionate about interfaith work, as well as about reaching out to other communities and trying to do good in the world, really, what it comes down to. But I had to find a way to do it. So you can only do learning and earning if you get a good education. So that's what brought me to America. And these are just a very few quick career highlights. I worked in nanotechnology work for almost 12, 13 years, assessing it on, and I know it's very big in Bangalore. I've done high-tech ventures in the areas of automotive lightweighting and new materials introduction into production. So Ford, General Motors, Chrysler here in America have used my capabilities to bring large projects together in collaborations to advance research. And I use those program management skills gained in engineering management for my humanitarian projects with Rotary International as well. So that's what this yellow box here, talks about. And enough said there. So I've done this for 30 plus years, but really my humanitarian journey began in Bangalore at one time because I was selected by my American Rotary district here to lead this group of 6 Rotarians from America and Canada to come to Bangalore, witness National Immunization Day in 1997. So this was January 26, 1997. And we worked for 3 days in the fields, literally in the villages outside Bangalore, to find, to go to community centers and offer these oral polio drops vaccine. What struck me interestingly is that the declaration of the availability of this vaccine was made in 1961 in the town I currently live in called Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is outside Detroit, on the University of Michigan campus by Dr. Jonas Salk himself. He was the developer of the Salk vaccine, which is oral polio, drops that are offered, just 2-3 drops that you put into the mouth of a child under 5 helps prevent polio. So India is polio free since 2012, thankfully, and we just have a little bit of polio cases in Pakistan and Afghanistan, unfortunately. And Rotary, as you know, is working very hard. So I just want to pay homage to my wonderful Rotary mentor in Bangalore, Dr. Shri M.K. Pandurang Shetty, and Mrs. Vasanta, his wonderful wife, because they hosted me when I was here for this mission on oral polio vaccine, administration on National Immunization Week in Bangalore. And they're still warm friends. I keep in touch with the family a lot, and I always visit them when I'm there. But he has set the example of humanitarian service worldwide. And of course, he arranged a meeting because I was working in technology. He had us visit with no other than NRN at Infosys, when Infosys was a company of only 2,200 people in 1997. And NRN spent a morning with me and my team to show us that very, very small the Infosys campus at that time. And fast forward, I still keep active in polio work. This is the incoming president of Rotary International. She's from Canada. So she starts her term in exactly a month, Jennifer Jones. And I'm sure you'll see her in Bangalore if some of you are involved in Rotary or Rotaract work. So besides that, what got me started is also, the need to give back in some way. As much as we are foreign, NRI-based Indians or Jains, we have a responsibility to help uplift our own. And the work I'm most proud of, at least from my Rotary side of things, is working in Calcutta in the Sundarbans with the Ramakrishna Ashram. So you can see the monks here. We, partnering with the Rotarians in Calcutta, many Rotary clubs, we have been able to install over 1,300 toilets in the homes of people that actually defecate outdoors in the open in the Sundarbans jungle. And you can see the kind of jungles and farms here, but if you've been to that area, it is very desolate. And most of these are women-run homes because the men are always, they're migrant workers. They work across the rest of the country. And of course, with the pandemic, many things may have changed now. I've not been back there since then. But the women are able to sustain themselves and their families better when they stay healthy, when they stay safe, and when they have time available from sickness and dealing with diarrhea and all the problems that children might be having, to go learn a trade. So the Ramakrishna Ashram monks teach these women all kinds of trades, mostly seamstressing, clothing, but all these other things also go on there. So, we've been able to make a difference in at least 15 to 20,000 lives, because these are many large extended families that live, and they all learn to share and use a Rotary provided toilet. So, which is a very, very big deal these days, as you know, with Narendra Modi's Prime Minister's sanitation program. So that's one I'm passionate about. And number two, I've been able to use my connections with the Jain, friends in India to reach out and try and make a difference in a completely different field. So humanitarian reuse of pacemakers. University of Michigan, right here in Ann Arbor, has actually, the doctors have innovated an FDA-approved technique for recycling pacemakers retrieved from basically dead people. All right. But there are so many countries in the world where people cannot afford to buy a pacemaker and use it. And therefore, their lives are shortened significantly. What we were asked by the University of Michigan doctors to do, and this is advisory board work that my wife Varsha and I did together, is to offer to them to reach out to countries where we could do significant number of clinical trials. So we were asked to find countries where 500 units of clinical pacemaker trials could be done. This is back in 2014. Excuse me. And of course, I reached out to my Rotary network. So sorry, about my Rotary network here, Mrs. Maya Agarwal from the Bangalore Health City Rotary Club, and Dr. Shugan Jain, a very dear friend and partner in Delhi, and a couple of others. But we were able to arrange meetings with, key cardiology specialists in India, like Dr. Naresh Trehan and Dr. Devi Shetty, and give them these briefings and requested them to apply to Government of India for permission to conduct these kinds of trials, so that, the economically disadvantaged populations can get access to low-cost pacemaker and stent technology. Well, it turned out, with all of the discussions that we initiated in India and the paperwork that flew around, the Prime Minister Modi's government itself put limits on the prices of cardiac devices. So that negated the need to reuse pacemakers. And therefore, our project then went to Kenya, Nicaragua, Philippines, South Africa, etc. for those trials. And then the pandemic, messed things up a little bit. So things got slowed down even more. But what I'm trying to say is that, we've been trying to make a difference, and you intend to do something in one direction, and the so-called unintended, in this case, very positive consequence is the fact that Government of India itself woke up and realized that these prices of the hospitals charge for pacemakers and stents and cardiac devices are outrageous, and we need to do something for the masses to be able to afford this. So we've been able to make a difference in funny different ways. And I don't take credit for any of this, but all I'm saying is that you start something and you don't know how it snowballs and leads to something else. And in that same vein, I'll just share this last photo before I go to the Diaspora and the Jaina talk. Again, activism in sustainability has got me in touch with Dr. Jain Goodall, who's big time humanitarian and works on vegan diets and other aspects out of England. But we had the opportunity to host Kailash Satyarthi, who is the Nobelist for 2014. He shared the prize with Malala Yousafzai when they were nominated. He came to our town and received an award at that time in 2001 from our University of Michigan, where my wife used to be a professor. We were the only Indians present there at the award event, among many other Americans there. And at the end, we went to congratulate a fellow Indian for receiving this honor for his work in, eliminating child labor and slavery and other bonded labor issues in India. And he said that the only question he asked me is, where can I get vegetarian food from? So I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And after the talk he had at the university where he got this Wallenberg Award, we carried out food from an Indian restaurant, came to my home, sat down, and we just talked for several hours, and I got to know him. I told him about the work I'd done with child labor involvement in the silk industry in Bangalore. I took a lot of graphic videos of children and mothers literally with babies in their laps dealing with hot water pots in the front. This is in Ramnagaram, in 1997 when I went on the Rotary mission, and raises awareness to it. So I hope I've not visited Ramnagaram again since then, but it offered very sad commentary for the kind of exploitation that goes on. And my Rotary group also met with the labor commissioner in the Karnataka government at that time to sort of try and escalate these issues. So things are going on in different ways. But then in 2016, I met Kailash Satyarthi once again at a sanitation conference in Calcutta. By the way, he's sitting next to the current Rotary International President, Shekhar Mehta, who hosted us there. And when I told him that, this is 13, 14 years later, we were meeting, and I told him that he had come to our home and he had asked for vegetarian food, and we had, met him at this prize award. He immediately stood up and gave me such a big hug in front of about 8,000 people at that Rotary event that I was really touched that he remembered and came, was so humble to give me that honor. And besides that, I've been active with, the sanitation side. So the president of the World Toilet Organization here in Singapore is a dear friend of mine. And he has spoken at various events in Calcutta and, of course, around the world nowadays on sanitation issues. And the last, again, the diaspora activities that I'm involved with get me into multiple other, connections. So when the Vatican reaches out to the Jain community in the UK, they invite us to come and, also partner with them on initiatives. And Dr. Salek Jain, for example, once attended the declaration of the Jain Declaration of Nature back in, I think, 1990 or something. He will tell you. Again, in this same joint collaborative work we do with Jains around the world. So in this case, I was invited by the UK Jains to meet with this Cardinal Jean-Louis Tauran for Interreligious Council on for dialogue on peace and nonviolence back in 2013. So those are the high-level examples. Let's talk about who is Jaina, what is Jaina now. So this is an organization, a nonprofit, humanitarian, educational, and public relations organization that represents, that's an umbrella organization representing 70 Jain centers, which comprise about 150,000 Jains who are settled in US and Canada. It's non-sectarian, so we try and go above all the differences of Digambar, Shwetambar, Stanakwasi, Mandir Margi, etc. to what are high level, one, to promoting the common Jain identity, and number two, to addressing issues that are all non-sectarian only. And Jaina consists of these 70 Jain centers, each of whom nominates 1 to even 3 Jaina directors based on the membership levels, numbers that they have at each center. So for example, our Detroit Jain Center has about 700 members, families that are members of the Jain associations in North America. And we are allowed 3 Jaina directors. So I'm one of them. I'm the senior most director for our Detroit Sangh since 2004. And so then we, amongst the 120 directors in North America, we elect the executive committee, which is about 13 people with regional vice presidents, etc. And then the rest of the work is done in approximately 40 committees of Jaina, which are staffed by nearly 300 volunteers. Every one of us is doing a day job, full-time, whatever it is, doctor, lawyer, engineer, et cetera, et cetera. And we are spending our spare time, nights, weekends, whatever, based on our passion and based on the assignments given to manage the affairs of Jaina. So that's how, Sulek uncle and myself have been doing this labor of love for many years, as are many other Jains in North America. And typically we hold biennial conventions every 2 years. Since I think 1983, this tradition began, and we do it on a rotating basis across multiple cities of North America. So next year, the 2023 convention is going to be held outside Orlando in Florida. And I would like to invite you all to, make a plan to visit. I know the visas for entering US are in short supply and there's a long wait. So I would encourage, if you have intentions and want to attend a Jaina convention and witness, a spectacle of 4,000 Jains under one roof, talking about so many multiple topics, which could be all of these, for example, that you see, in this little graphic. Our current president of Jaina is Hareshbhai Shah. Past immediate president is Maheshbhai Vadar. And then, of course, you can see several other Jain leaders here. Lokesh Muni, in fact, is in Southern California. Yesterday, they held a large peace meeting with Sri Ravi Shankar and Vivek Oberoi and a few others, which was also well attended. What I want to also explain to you in a very graphic form is and I'm from Detroit, so I love and I live in the car industry, which is my daily bread. But I've tried to therefore recast how Jaina takes care of us at every stage of wheels of life. We start our children with Jain Pathshalas across America. The Los Angeles Jain Pathshala has about 450 children. Our Detroit Pathshala has 120 children attending every second Sunday and fourth Sunday of the month for 2 hours classes by volunteer teachers and parents like myself and others. Okay, so we do that. Then we as we become teenagers, we go into YJA, which is called Young Jains of America. And when we graduate from college and become young professionals, it's called Young Jain Professionals. So we have activities focused on those, uplifting, encouraging, bringing motivational speeches, doing volunteer community service, social events, etc. And we hope that Jains will connect with other Jains. So we call this program Jain Connect, which is a matrimonial introductory service to get young Jain professionals to take the next step in their lives so that they can settle down. And when they do settle down and have young families, we encourage them to come to Jaina conventions, for example. And again, broaden their network and broaden their perspective, know what the bigger issues are, and to celebrate Jainism. This is really what these conventions are about. And these are held every 2 years, as I said. And once you kind of even progress through that stage, keep coming back to Jaina conventions, but now think of how are you going to leave a legacy for yourself. You are a successful individual, who has progressed very well through a career path, etc. What can you, and you are now retired, perhaps you got a significant nest egg built up. What can you do to leave a legacy, not only for your immediate family, but more for the community and for the name of Jainism and the proliferation of Jainism in North America or elsewhere in the world? So we ask you, leave some of your wealth and, share that for good punya, so that you can propagate Jainism into perpetuity through the academic liaison and philanthropy work that you would do. So this is something I really want to give you as a take-home message, that Jaina is there for the entire life cycle of a human being. And that's what we aspire to do. Every Pathshala child in America is given this one little, card. It's just like a business card this size, okay? Which has this information printed on it. So this is our Jainism's elevator speech. What is Jainism? What do we Jains stand for? We don't want our kids to be shy and to be bullied because they're vegetarian in school, and American kids say, hey, how come you're not eating meat and you're not getting protein and all that? Well, this is the explanation our kids are taught to give. I am hoping that every Jain in India, in my opinion, non-Jain Indians know least about Jainism, okay? Just because our awareness is only limited to, we put mupatti and our monks walk naked or those kinds of things. So it's very difficult to get non-Jain Indians, our own fellow brothers and sisters from the Hindu, Sikh, Islam, Christianity, Parsi religions to appreciate what Jainism means and stands for. And I want to drive that point here in this meeting, that we should in India aspire to do something like this, give every Jain association, Jain Sangh across India, this common definition of Jainism. This is not Digambar, it's not Shwetambar, it's nothing. It's just one identity for Jainism. So then, as I mentioned, there are 40 different committees of Jaina, where all these Jain center affairs are managed. And I'm not going to list any or mention any of them. The Diaspora Committee is one of them in this list here, as is the Overseas Relations Committee and several others that I work very closely with. I put a few photos of Dr. Nitin Shah, who was the winner of last year's Jaina Karuna Ratna Award. He has volunteered on hundreds of missions, medical missions across India and even elsewhere in the world. He's gone to Haiti and Zambia and all kinds of difficult places in the world to offer humanitarian aid. But this time he went specifically a couple of months ago to India to visit all our oxygen plants. As you remember, there was a major pandemic crisis last year in India exactly at this time. Millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people were dying, and just because they couldn't get access to oxygen in the hospitals or oxygen centers. And so Jaina put together several fundraisers here locally in America that resulted in enough funding with matching and other money from various philanthropists that allows 11 such plants to be gifted by Jaina to various hospitals in India. It may not be well spread because we had to go with where the most urgent need was and where our connections were most solid. So that's something I want to mention. The other thing is, so this is again a continuing list of more Jaina committees. As you can see, we are doing so many different things. But we also undertook a project in the last 3 or 4 years to offer what's called Vayavat. So I think this is a Shwetambar term, but mostly to provide and renovate the housing facilities for the vihars that our Jain sadhus do when they go across India. One, for their safety, for their health, for their security as well. Many of them get attacked, as Nitin Bhai mentioned in one of his slides earlier on. So the idea is to set up at different stops, a few kilometers or miles apart in Gujarat and Rajasthan initially, and I'm sure it will spread to Maharashtra and Karnataka as well, and Tamil Nadu and wherever else significant numbers of Jains sadhus visit. To offer safe and secure housing, both for our sadhvijis and for our sadhu maharajas. So this Vayavaj committee, for example, took about $1.5 million that were raised and has at least renovated several of these places in Gujarat for now. And you're seeing one of those photos of sadhu resting there. Overall, Jaina has contributed about $5 million for many of these projects in India between just 2019 and 2022, and we've done many others over the life of Jaina. So this is generally the map of US and Canada, and I just want to show you how a lot of the Jain temples map onto various parts. So if any Indian students come to America, especially Jain students, we have campus outreach programs, for example. So at my University of Michigan campus, I'm sorry, my graphic got missed out, but I am right here just to give you an idea geographically. So this is this is Washington, DC. New York City is right about here. All right. And this is Detroit and Ann Arbor, where I live. Sulekji is right here in Las Vegas. All right. Southern part of Las Vegas. So it's in Nevada here. So this is where he is. And for example, a lot of the Jain chairs and academic chairs and liaison work is being done out of California, where it started. Jaswant Modi resides there, as do several other donors. And we have donors across the country, but those are the two big places. And then approximately 40 chairs across North America in various places. But this is primarily a mapping of the temples across North America, US and Canada, that any Jain visiting here can come to. And yeah, so sorry, that was the Jain centers. So there are the 70 Jain centers, and then these are all the Jain temples that we have across America. So as I said, we are spread out. We are among the most organized Jains, most networked Jains in North America, as you can see. So the potential for what can we do now to raise this level of Jain unity and Jain connectedness with Jain communities in other countries of the world. I think India is a very difficult location to work in, because we are such diversity and so much spread of Jainism across the country, and also so much fragmentation, right? So our logic was that what can we at least do to reach out to Jains known to live in 35 countries around the world and give them, better vision, perhaps. Given the example we have set in North America with Jaina, can we drive the Thailand Jains and the Japanese Jains and Singapore Jains and Australian Jains and Dubai Jains and UK Jains, etc., to all come together under and promote one Jain identity, because that is needed. If your child in America, raised in the West, can say that I'm Indian, that's a big thing. If a child can say I'm a Jain, that's a very big thing, because these children are not going to go and say, I'm a Digambar Jain, I'm a Shwetambar Jain, I'm whatever color of Jainism there is. If they can say I'm a Jain and I'm proud of it, that's a big deal itself. And we are very happy with that. And in my opinion, we need to really strive hard to drive Jain unity. So that's one of my takeaways for you all as well. So there are 4 main goals of the Jain diaspora, activity that I'm very honored and privileged to lead since 2009. One is convening these Jain leaders from around the world so that we forge this common Jain identity and promote unity. Encourage the sharing of information by Jain centers in various countries, so as we can raise awareness. And somebody has done a project or solved a problem in one country, why can't some other Jains in another country take that idea and adapt it to their needs? So that's the plan. It can be done in India as well. There's no issue at all. Okay, how do we then leverage our common identity and values? By identifying these common challenges and sharing the best practices. And then the 4th point here is, how do we identify ways to work together and promote and exemplify the Jain way of life to non-Jains? We have to do outreach so that we are accepted, that way we are integrated into mainstream Western populations. They appreciate us. They don't regard us as, crazy people or terrorists or whatever, as many other religious groups are being, sidelined for. But we are there to promote peace, nonviolence, tolerance, environmentalism, vegetarianism, all the good things of Jainism. That's the key message we want the Westerners to take. And for that reason, we host in our Detroit and various other Jain temples across the country, many Western groups that come to visit our temples. So this is my committee. I just want to give them a quick shout out, because, all this work cannot be done by a single person, but it takes a group and a lot of brainstorming and ideas. So I've been sharing the chairpersonship of Jaina Diaspora Committee with Dilip Shah, who is a past president from Philadelphia. And we have an India vice chair now for the last 1 year, Mrs. Sharmila Oswal. She has spoken twice at our Jaina conventions. She's doing awesome work out of Pune, and also a former GITO board member, and just an amazing person in so many different fields, from water diplomacy to organic entrepreneurship to Namami Gange project. She's close to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, very well networked in the academic circles of India as well. And then I have to acknowledge the help of Mrs. Harsha Shah, Jain based in Kuwait, who has been active in this is called the JSGIF, is called Jain Social Group International Federation. And she was the overseas chair. But there are Jain social groups, not Jain centers, in countries like, say, Indonesia or Dubai or Kuwait, which are primarily Islamic, right? And they don't allow other religions to have their own centers. So we have what's called a social group, and they hold their Paryushan and Mahavi Jayanti and other programs by just collecting as a social group without filing a nonprofit application. So she has been active in connecting me to those. And then, of course, Sulek Uncle is there on the top because he asked me to step up and do this work. Prem Jain, past president of Jaina, Dr. Sushil Jain from Washington, D.C., Ashok Bhai Domadia from California, Dr. Deepika Dalal from Miami, Florida, and my wife, Varsha Mehta, who is my constant partner in this kind of work and advisor. So where are Jains really spread? And I just want to, from a location of standpoint of India, show you all these circles. And I'm not going to mention every country here, but just to give you a high level picture of where are Jains settled in significant numbers, as well as, of course, UK, Belgium, Germany, France, Italy, Switzerland, various numbers there. And what we have also done is to accentuate within Jaina the diaspora, message about reaching out and learning. So we've had one Jain Digest issue that I don't know if you can find online. in our Jaina.org website. But this lists about 18 to 20 Jain centers around the world where Jains are present in significant numbers that I think is worth reaching into. The other one is Jaina calendar. So we did a 2014 calendar, and even this year's 2022 calendar profiles Jain temples outside of India. And I don't want to worry about this, but high level, the point is that we think we are about 5 million of us. These are the circles on the left where most Jains are concentrated in India. And our two most important places of pilgrimage, Samet Shikharji and Palitana. And by the way, I had the privilege of attending 2 Mahamastak Abhisheks when I was studying in Bangalore. For Bhagwan Bahubali in Shravan Belagola. I made umpteen trips there, so I just love going there. I don't think we need to worry too much about this slide because I also use some of these slides to talk to non-Jains and Westerners about who we are, what we stand for. So then I, put in things like, well, what are our typical last names, at least for North Indian Jains. These are the numbers represented in North America, right? Most of the professions of diaspora Jains are in entrepreneurship, legal, finance, CPAs, civil service. Just like in India, you have UPSC and other things, but we have, public policy here in America. A lot are into trade and commerce like gems and architecture, marble trading. Many are also academics, engineering and IT and software professionals. And of course, so many doctors and healthcare professionals, pharmacists, and various other scientists. I'm proud to say our Detroit Jain temple was built largely by engineers Jain engineers who have worked at Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler since the 1950s, I'd say more like 60s onwards. And we have a very, beautiful temple. We estimate that the economic impact of 1.5 lakh Jains in North America is at least $5 billion a year, meaning we are the, I can't say I'm proud to say this because there are other problems we have downstream, but certainly we are the wealthiest of the entire immigrant community in America, whether we look at Jews, whether we look at Europeans or, various Africans, everybody, Filipinos. Jains are even above the Indian diaspora that is represented, which is about 4.4 million Indians in North America. So we have that significant earning power. Now, what are we doing to give back, which is, the big question that Sulek Uncle and I'm going to raise shortly. So for those of you who are not aware, the first recorded Jain in America was actually Veerchand Raghavji Gandhi. In 1893, he came with Swami Vivekananda and a few others in the Indian delegation and spoke about Jainism actually for the first time in North America. And of course, Srimad Rajchandra influenced Mahatma Gandhi in so many different ways. There are books written on this, and Dr. Shugan Jain has written one of the best books on the relationship between Gandhi and the Srimad. But then that non-violent, thinking has also pervaded into Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and various other peace activists. Unfortunately, it's not working in Ukraine right now. On top of it, Jaina has achieved UN recognition in 2007 as a humanitarian organization because we not only promote Jainism, but now we promote the Jain values in different ways. And to do that in America, we have to work with lawmakers, we have to work with intellectuals, we have to work with nonprofit groups, etc. Right? So we work in animal compassion causes. We have Jain professorships who are dedicated to these causes, and Sulek Uncle will mention some of them. We are promoting plant-based diets in American schools by going into the legislation side. All right, we work with Michelle Obama, for example, some years ago on getting this word plant-based diets into the text of the bills. We are promoting veganism. So you know about the Jain Center of Southern California is entirely vegan by policy. Dr. Jaswant Modi, when he was president, helped do that. We are promoting environmentalism. There is, for example, a Jain declaration on climate change that was issued officially at the 2019 Jaina Convention in Los Angeles. That is now available online. So, we Jains in India need to take these same positions and, speak up when we see things going wrong in the world, whether it is in the animal cruelty side or, other exploitation issues or climate change, we have to speak up. And of course, we partner with the UK Jains, so we have done various, events there together. As I mentioned in some of the photos, President Obama and all this work he has done. White House, at least the Democrat White Houses have been very welcoming of diversity and bringing in the dharmic religions, both Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, etc., are represented in the Democratic White Houses. I can't say the same thing about President Trump, unfortunately. But he has his own connections and he does things differently, or he at least did things differently. So just some quick examples of recent Jaina diaspora activities. I think I have about 15 minutes, so I think I'm going to take those really quickly. What we do is we encourage our Jains, whoever visit foreign countries, please reach out and visit a Jain center, make connections with the Jain leaders, tell them who you are, where you are from. So this is examples of what we've done. Belgium on the bottom left, Australia, Melbourne on the top right. Ashok Domadia, past president of Jaina, and his wife visited Melbourne, so they reached out to the Jain Center there. Dilipai Shah here wrote a book on Gurudev Chitrabhanu, and we attended the bust inauguration ceremony for Gurudev Chitrabhanu in 2018 at the Jain Society of Metropolitan Chicago. Some of these things, I think you've all seen President Obama's declaration of Jainism and all the texts that have gone around it. Literally every year we were able to do that. What I was able to do in 2019 March was to recite the Navkar Mantra, first time ever in the state of Michigan on the House floor. And funnily, thanks to an Indian American elected leader from the Hindu American Foundation, Padma Kupa, who helped me do that. And this is our representative, Christine Gregg, from the area where our Jain temple is located in Detroit. So they were present, and their encouragement, I was asked to go and translate the Jaina Navkar Mantra and also Maitri Bhavna prayers and deliver them on the stage. I don't think I have time, but you can Google my name and find this YouTube video. We get visits, and Jaina Diaspora Committee also helps facilitate these meetings. We also hold special diaspora focus sessions at Jaina conventions and make sure we invite a diversity of Jain speakers to talk. So these are examples of Samnijis from the Jain Vishwa Bharati, because they are present. There are permanent, locations in North America, 4 places where Samnijis actually reside and they offer counsel, but they also are faculty on various, couple of campuses, teaching Jainism and peace and nonviolent type things there, meditation, yoga, etc. And of course, this is Professor Hampa Nagarajaya, who I had the pleasure of and privilege of meeting in London a few years ago. Batarak Charukirti ji always comes from Mudbidri to all of our Jaina convention events. And most on the right, we had the privilege of having Dr. Virendra ji Hegde, Lakshmishan Batarak ji, and Sri Dhyan Sagar ji delivering lectures at the Jaina convention last year as well. It was all virtual, but we made sure that we had a very good balance of speakers. Those are examples. I thought, because many of you are from Karnataka, I just want to give a shout out to a friend of mine, Dr. Aarti Krishna, who is the NRI Forum chair in Karnataka. She addresses a lot of NRI issues, so would be a very good resource to reach out to. But I made sure she was able to visit when she was in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago to visit the Jain Center of Metropolitan Washington. And so Dr. Sushil Jain and his wife Asha Jain hosted her at the temple there. And you will see some viral videos of this. This is the 3-dimensional model. There are beautiful videos out there right now about the new upcoming construction project going on in Washington, D.C. for a new Jain temple. So besides that, we get involved in many animal compassion activities. And I just want to show an example of my own sons. For 13 years, when you cannot easily do compassion, there are many cities in America which ban the feeding of birds or ban feeding of wild animals, etc. So you have to work within the rules, right? What we did was we went to a nursing home in Ann Arbor, where we live, which is only a mile away from my home now. And we asked all the intensive care, patients, the families of intensive care patients, if they would like to have a bird feeder on the window. So these are my 2 sons from almost 20 years ago now. But what we did was we initiated a project. They used their own savings and piggy bank allowances to buy these bird feeders. Sometimes the families bought for us also of the patients. And we put them near or outside the windows of the nursing home room where their own parent was housed for long-term care. And we made sure we refill these bird feeders every week without fail with, bird seed, etc. So these are ways of doing Jeevdaya and to do it in the West without any issues. Everybody welcomes you. You make many more new friends out of this. And besides that, of course, as the bullets show there, we are partnered with animal sanctuaries. There are several. There is one which is owned by a Jain couple in Colorado called Loving Farms. We have annual vegan meal campaigns. Then on, Thanksgiving Day, there are big celebrations with the slaughter of turkeys in America because that's a Thanksgiving tradition the Westerners have. We Jains actually hold prayers in our temples for the souls of these turkeys on that same day. So just quickly, we do a lot of other volunteer work in the community and outreach. We, for example, our youth go to a place called World Medical Relief, where they help repackage, gently used medical supplies and ship them to countries around the world where the need is. Okay, one thing I want to share here is a very beautiful example from Singapore. When you enter the Jain Center of Singapore, you are immediately faced with this beautiful poster that shows the major milestones on the presence of Jains in that country. It goes back to 1910 and ends at almost 2010 or something over here. Point being that every Jain center should do this so-called heritage project so that they can, for future youth, show the long history and tradition we have in the country and where we are existing. So wherever I go to every Jain center, I always share this example. Besides that, we have been, as Jaina, we could not be the activists for the minority status that Jains have in India, but we could be catalyst and to help promote that. So I was privileged to attend a minority Jain conference several years ago with a couple of other Jaina representatives as well. And of course, at that time, it was a different government in India that sanctioned the minority status. Besides that, a lot of humanitarian work going on through Jaina. We have World Community Service projects. We have various other relief projects. And I'm just going to, this is a high-level listing only, but I'm going to quickly show you just some quick examples that I've personally experienced or been at. So Ratnanidhi Foundation out of Mumbai is doing this amazing project, at least in 2009, of treating, a lot of amputees in Palitana, as well as provided hearing aids to the individuals. So the founder was Shri Mahendrabhai Mehta there. And of course, Modi ji and our past Jaina president, Lataben Chamsi, attended. Dalai Lama also came. And of course, we honored D.R. Mehta at a Jaina conference on business ethics at Claremont Lincoln University in 2013 or 14, I think, for the amazing work he has done with amputees and out of Jaipur Foot. I also like to accentuate, and share the information about humanitarian work done by other Jain centers. So Kenya Jains, when there was a terrorist attack in a mall, the Kenya Jain Center, the Visa Oshwal Center, was literally 2 or 3 blocks from the site where this attack happened. And the Jains immediately jumped in. They provided food for all the police and the military folks who were housed there so that they could fight and, take care of the terrorists and rescue all the shoppers who were, hurt or injured in this affair. So this happened back, in 2013. But I like to share that example because I had the Jains from Kenya come and speak at a Jaina convention about this experience. Some beautiful work being done by Virayatan, Acharya Channaji and her Sadhviji groups for cerebral palsy patients in Kenya. They've opened a ward and you can see the wonderful work going on there with the Kenya Jains. Besides that, they do earthquake relief work in Nepal as well. I've also done outreach at the Parliament of World Religion. So in 2018, we partnered with a group called EcoCiv, which a dear friend of Sulek Uncle's is Philip Clayton, the Dean at Claremont University, who wanted us to provide the Jain perspective and interfaith perspective. So I brought various speakers from other faiths to talk about the humanitarian work they do. A lot of outreach issues. So I think I can quickly stop over here since time is running out. The 5 or 6 big issues for Jains located abroad are as follows listed here. One is peace and conflict resolution. How do we find solutions that our children don't get bullied, and how do we spread this anti-bullying message of peace and harmony to other non-Jains? And you've heard about all the gun violence and shootings in America in the last few weeks, and it just continues, unfortunately. But we Jains have some of these answers. Well, and one of which has been pursued is called the International School for Jain Studies Teaching for Peace program for high school teachers in the West who are sent to India to learn about Jain principles. And I think Sulek Uncle will talk more about that. We are passionate about climate change and environment. This is the big thing that drives younger Jains now. We have a lot of senior Jains coming to Jain temples, but we don't have younger kids coming. So we want to bring these professionals into the temples by addressing and focusing on the problems that they care about. So we've had some of these things. We are helping our Jain centers go green. So some of them now have solar power. They use only biodegradable utensils when serving, meals, etc. So all these green campaigns are going on in the Jain temples as well in North America. We are doing what we can to reach out in poverty and inequity, not only within America where there's a lot of problems, but also doing volunteer work in India. And you've seen examples of that. Women's empowerment is very big because if you want to drive any change and make it permanent, you start with the woman of the house. Whether it is in India with the Sundarbans, you're trying to drive toilet, and open defecation, or you're trying to bring new educational and other values into your families, it starts with the woman of the house. And of course, we want to then integrate and maintain peaceful, harmonious living with our mainstream cultures while keeping our Jain identity unique. So, so the 4 concerns are Detroit, or 5 concerns our Detroit Center has. I think this is a repeat slide, but it talks about taking care of our senior citizens, the ones who came here in the 1960s and 70s, who are all getting old now. They need senior housing. They want to stay close to the temples. So we're trying to make arrangements for them. Plus, passing traditions to youth. So the Pathshala is doing an awesome job. And then we are taking this on to the next step that you'll hear about in the Academic Liaison Committee presentation. And then we want to share our Jain way of life. So we are covering all those areas. Very quickly. So this is only one slide, but I just want, and you'll see the rest of the details in Sulek Uncle's presentation. 800 students have attended this ISJS program since 2005-06 in New Delhi, and Pune, and Mumbai, and Ahmedabad. The other important thing, because this is very close to where I live and I've been active, you can see there are more white faces over here. The reason is, and the credit goes to Gurudev Chitrabhanu and his wife Pramodaben for reaching out in the 70s, slowly and calmly to teach Jain way of life and vegetarianism and other things to American populations. So they have good devotee, built up a base built up in New York and Washington, and of course in Ann Arbor is the largest organization. It's called Lighthouse Center, where we get together quite often. And of course, a very detailed list of topics but I think the most important, which I put in bold here, is what do the diaspora care the most about? And I sort of address those in my talk, so I won't read them. But I think the number one most important one is unifying the Jain sects and creating a common Jain identity. If we can't do that, we have lost it all. So with that, I want to thank you all for your time and your patience. And I guess if you want to do the questions now, Nitin Bhai, or we can do them together after Sulek Uncle's presentation, we can both address them.
We'll do it after Sulek Uncle's presentation.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jai Janendra. And maybe one more slide. So I'll stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Manish ji. It was indeed a very insightful presentation. And most of us are aware of Jaina, but today we have gotten a deeper insight, and probably we are beginning to explore and understand how Jain community is working out of India, Jaina Diaspora. So thank you so much once again. We will take the questions, while after the second presentation, we'll open the forum for discussion and question answers. Nitin ji,